Welcome to the Sonic Collective, a music podcast that explores a different album or musical concept each month, diving deep into its history, context, and impact on the music industry. Join our hosts, Alan, Scott, and Darren Scott, that's way too many Scotts, as they share their thoughts, insights, and personal connections to the music, inviting you, the listener, to discover new perspectives and appreciation for some of the greatest albums and music of all time.
Hello there, music lovers. Welcome to the Sonic Collective. This is our special look at 10 years. A look back. Holy hell, how's it gotten to be 10 years? So it was somewhere in late 2014 that a few of us with a thirst for exposure to a greater range of music decided to form a group and each month pick a album of significance. That word we didn't really define, but most of it we said it's got to be at least 6 years old. Tend to avoid greatest hits compilations, live albums, but exceptions have been made. We've listened to nearly 150 albums. We've had some special rounds, and actually we've interviewed some artists like Danko Jones, Sam Roberts, and Alan Cross, who is a music kind of commentator. So 10 years of musical discovery. We're going to go through this kind of with some areas like top 3 albums, bottom 3 albums, some surprising musical discoveries, maybe some favorite albums we've been introduced to around the world, or some bands we've been introduced to around the way, and maybe just some surprises and how it's impacted us as music lovers. We'll do some of these in back and forth, and then we might have extended points, but let's get into it and look at 10 years back. So boys, can you believe it's been 10 years?
No.
It's crazy. Shocking.
Yeah, I think it really creeped up. I think it was last year I just pointed out randomly that I'm like, hey, I think we're coming up on 9 years, and we did the math, and then obviously leading up to this, but cool. Just a little group of friends. And I mean, you mentioned there is 4 of us here. We'll introduce ourselves, but a shout out to Greg Jorgensen, also over in Thailand with Scott, who was an original member. I believe he was in the group for maybe almost 2 years, or maybe a year and a bit. And that was pre when we recorded it. So unfortunately, Greg's voice is not around. But if you listen to the Bangkok podcast, you can listen to Greg all you want. But a shout out to him. And I also, you mentioned some artists we interviewed, Scott, but Will Mimnon too, or Will, the artist known as Will. Great right. Canadian guy. I know a friend of Scott's, and I know him a bit too, but based out of Vancouver now, but also an amazing artist. But yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Right. So I went through the kind of catalog of all the picks and the reviews and sort of pulled things that I remembered fondly and not so fondly. And I think we'll just start at maybe top 3 albums. And I realized my picks are all ones I knew anyway before, but maybe this little club got me thinking about more closely. And one of them, my top 3 is Van Halen, by Van Halen, the first album by them. I always try and now remember when I put that on, like what that must have sounded like to people the first time they heard it. When Eruption came on and no one had heard that kind of sound on a guitar. Absolutely incredible. Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys. I bought that album when it came out. It got, savaged when it came out, and time has kind of bestowed a lot more love upon it. I think it has well over 100 samples. Incredible album. And then another one, which I knew, but I've come to listen to a lot more, and the extended version is Tom Petty, Wildflowers. Just love that album. So all 3 of them, I mean, there's lots more I could pick, but those 3 stand out as kind of my top 3. How about you, Alan?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, those are definitely some interesting albums, and I've got some fond memories.
Van Halen was your pick, I think. Wasn't it? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
It was a good one.
Yeah. My top 3 were actually, looking back, kind of quite different from yours. The first one was the Velvet Underground and Nico, which, to be fair, was my pick, but I had never actually listened to it. Well, I'd listened to like one song from them before. So like going into it, I didn't really know what to expect. I honestly figured it would be one of those overhyped, oh, everyone loves this album, it's so revolutionary kind of things, right? And I'd be like, yeah, whatever, it's meh. But no, I actually found myself listening to it time and time again. I look fondly back at that month's review to this day, and I'll still go through and grab a few choice tracks from that album, namely the ones that did not include Nico. Another one I really enjoyed was Hurry Up, We're Dreaming by M83. That was Scott Gregory's pick back in November of 2020. More recently, I've gotten into synthwave a lot, and M3 always ends up on a lot of these synthwave playlists. So yeah, at the time we reviewed it, I wasn't so big into that genre, but there's just this sonic aesthetic that kind of comes part and parcel with a visual aesthetic that I really enjoy. It's kind of like this optimistic and occasionally dystopian future that was promised but never quite happened because we're living in the darkest timeline. And my last pick was Def Leppard's Hysteria, which I believe Darren chose back in 2019. Love me some Def Lep. Recently we, reviewed Def Leppard's 1996 album Slang, and I think I had positive things to say about Hysteria back then. So yeah, always had a soft spot for that band. Really loved, listening to the full album and kind of exploring it more in depth with the lens of a music critic. Yeah, let me throw it over to Darren now. What were your top 3 albums we reviewed?
I always hate these, and as music fans, I think we all struggle with these. But I mean, there's so many good albums that we've had in this. But first of all, I'm 100% on the same page as Scott with Tom Petty, Wildflowers. I think that's probably number 1 with me. That was my pick, and interesting if you go back and listen to it. I decided to pick Tom Petty. Been a fan for years, loved him, Traveling Wilburys. But I picked it the first of the month, and he died like 4 days later. It was a very weird kind of scenario that happened the first time ever in our club that I picked it. And a few days later, we found out he died. So we listened to that album knowing he had just passed. So, but what a beautiful album. So amazing. I'm forgetting the name now, but if you go back into that episode, there's a great documentary about him and Rick Rubin and the production of that album. And wow, you should really go. Such a great album. My second one is The Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. Also I'm picking my own picks, but sorry guys. But I knew I liked the Talking Heads. I'd known that album, but it's a live concert that was Sam Raimi. Right? I can't believe I remembered that. Was the director that filmed it, but the soundtrack was amazing. They actually just re-released it across IMAX theaters just last year as a whole show, and I went with a friend, and oh my God, I just smoked a great joint, and we just had the best time. It's such a good album. The Talking Heads are amazing. And then
it's not the horror movie director Sam Raimi, is it?
No, I think it's maybe, you know what, maybe we should know, maybe it's not Sam Raimi. I probably messed that up. Insert that here. Somebody Google that while I talk and then come back and remind me. It's not, I think it's different, but anyway, apologies to music fans that'll criticize me for that, but that's okay. And the last, and I'm going to cheat slightly, but cheat. And I don't know why this stuck with me, and I'm not sure I would pick it as a favorite album, but it's the one album that we reviewed, and then it led into a genre that I hadn't done much with, and it's Dolly Parton's Jolene. Like when we picked that album, I just started to study Dolly Parton and got to know her. And there's a whole podcast called Dolly Parton's America that you can find, just Google it. It is amazing about her life. She is such an amazing woman. And I just think I fell in love with Dolly Parton. Obviously, I knew her. I'm not a big country fan, but that older country, the Cashes and the Willie Nelson and Scott Coates, I believe it was you picked Shotgun Willie once too. And in that same genre, wow. And I picked Johnny Cash at Folsom, live at Folsom too. But that I think that jumped out and it really surprised me. But Jolene, I don't think I ever obsessed over a pick that I did with that. So yeah, those 3 albums for me just really rose to the top over these 10 years. Scott Gregory, what are yours?
Yeah, so I'm going to cheat and do a shout out to one that's not in my top 3 because, as you mentioned, Greg was in here. I joined late, and the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was the first one that I came in on that I got to review with you guys, and that started these 10 years of staying in touch with Darren and Alan and making a new friend out of Scott. And it's been very meaningful for me for all of those things.
And sorry to interrupt, Scott, but we
that has a special
I think we did last episode, but this is our 10-year reunion one. And this is a crazy stat, but I mean, I think if anybody's listening, Scott Coates lives in Thailand. Scott and I have been friends for many years, but Alan and Scott Gregory, I worked with at a big telecommunications company here for many years. So we've known each other for, but the 4 of us had never been in the same room ever until just a few months ago. Scott Coates visited from Thailand and came to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, here where the 3 of us live. And we actually all met up. So I just want to say, I send it a kudos that I know we talked about in the last episode, but for 10 years, that was pretty cool. So anyway, sorry, Scott, continue.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Highlight for sure. No, that's good, right? Like I really think the relationship part of this, we we call it out sometimes, but I just want to really stress how deep and meaningful it is. It's easy to drift apart sometimes. And we have it. And I love that. As far as actual albums go, I think I was like Scott in that, I looked with a little bit of nostalgia on some of these and kind of the personal impact they had in my youth. And so the first one for me was Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. Coincidentally, Greg picked that. So, I used to listen to that on A-Track. I see what you're doing. It's a great album. And it stood the test of time. And I'd never heard rock opera before that. And it was interesting for me to go back to it and listen to it as not as one of 3 8-tracks I had to choose between while I pumped gas in minus 30-degree weather, but something that I was actually analyzing. And it really showed that this is.
I love that you just made an 8-track reference. That's awesome. Music. Anybody under 40 will have no idea what you're talking about, but yeah.
Oh yeah, because they were even old at that point, right? I was like, "What is this?" And then they're like, "It's like a cassette." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." The Cure. I believe that was one of Darren's picks, Head on the Door. And again, I never really listened to it in college or anything like that or school. I had heard the singles and I enjoyed them, but I wasn't consuming it at the album level. And so to be able to go back and listen to something that, I enjoy Robert's voice and the lyrics and all that stuff, but it never consumed him at the album level. And so it was meaningful for me to go back and start again shifting away from this playlist individual view that I'd fall into like pretty much all of humankind in the last 10, 15 years and get back to listening to albums. And finally, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome.
Dude, man, I love your top 3. It's so far away from mine. But awesome.
Yeah. 2 Tribes, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, Relaxed. Like it's just crazy to go in. And again, that one's almost rock opera-esque, right? And so I really think all my top albums, and I love all the ones that you guys picked as well too, but these really stood out to me as albums that I consumed before, but never really appreciated as a full work. Of all the songs together, and coming back and viewing them again in that light as a more mature adult. I wasn't like a 13-year-old just watching the video for Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, which was itself an experience going through puberty. But the album rocks too as an adult.
Okay, so let's go to bottom 3 now. It illustrates a point I'm going to bring up later, those top picks, but on to our bottom 3. And actually, this was a crowded area for me, and I had a tough time settling on 3, but there are definitely 3. One was picked by Greg, which Skunk, Ananise, Paranoid, and Sunburnt. Gosh, I hated that when we listened to it. I thought,
you were going to do that one.
it's a steaming turd burger. I just really...
I was like, who's going to get to it
that
first?
That did drop
right?
out of my top 3, but it was way up there, and I struggled. Yeah, so I'm with you. Yeah,
yeah, I really disliked it.
It was super derivative.
I clicked on a couple tracks, and I still hate it. The other one was Jeff Buckley, Grace. Like, I've always read how Jeff Buckley's so wonderful and all this, and I just hated that album. There's nothing about it I like. God, I thought it was awful. And the other one from your top 3, Scott, to my bottom, Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. Gosh, I have never liked Meatloaf. And I was a DJ in bars and had to play Paradise by the Dashboard Light. And man, I've tried. Oh, no. I just don't get Meatloaf. Like, I think it is so awesome.
Yeah, listeners, you can't see our video, but Scott Gregory is stunned right now that he picked that.
Here I was.
Yeah, his
feelings
absolutely.
I was talking about friendship, and I didn't realize it would end so soon after
albums in the thing. So anyway, those are my low 3. Alan, what are your 3 lowest?
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, none of those. But Kraftwerk Autobahn, which I'm sure was also a contender for all of you guys.
Yeah.
That was one of my picks from like 2015, like way, way back when we first started doing this. And I picked it because I had always heard that this album was like groundbreaking,
really,
sort of like, like a historical pioneering endeavor that kind of influenced the future of electronic music. But that just doesn't change the fact that this is barely passable as music. It's just, I did not enjoy that month of listening. My next pick was King Crimson's Court of the Crimson King. I know that's probably going to rub a few people the wrong way. I've got friends who swear by that album, but honestly,
it was my fourth on the list as well, Alan.
Yeah, in consideration
Yeah.
for me
To get down to
as
three.
well. Yeah, in consideration. Yeah.
And like I went back and listened to our review of it, and I don't think any of us really found a whole lot of redeeming qualities beyond, maybe a couple of songs here and there, but yeah, just not an enjoyable month of listening for us on that one either. And then lastly, oh my God, in September of 2020, one of you sadists picked Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, and good God, man, I listened to my review of that, and the vitriol I must have been having a bad month, dude, because like I was spicy in that review. But I still, like, definitely a low point for me. I still don't understand Bob Dylan's hype train. I don't think I ever will. And if
He's
that
like
offends
cilantro.
people, sorry, he's like cilantro. He's like soap to my ears.
That was my pick, and I did like him. That's okay.
Fair enough. Who else was on your list there?
Mine. Okay. I guess it's my turn now. I'm really sorry, Scott Gregory, but Bat Out of Hell has to be like number one. Fuck, what? Like, yeah, there's a couple songs
haters.
I can kind of put up with, but fuck, man, I cannot stand that. And I actually forgot how much I disliked it, but we did spent the month going through kind of our history. And when that popped, I actually had a whole different list. And then that one popped up as I was going through. I'm like, oh, that's number one. Like, I'm sorry, Scott. It's just not my thing. I am not a rock opera guy.
What if we let you sleep on
in
it?
general, yeah.
Maybe, baby.
Not really a prog rock guy. And hey, don't get me wrong. I love Rush, for example, but even some of their earlier stuff is hard for me. Like that, prog rock is a taste. It's very white, angsty man, usually single, plays a lot of like board games. I'm just kidding.
Man.
I'm just kidding.
Fired.
Called out.
No, but I mean,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, did not love that. Honorable mentions, Skunk and Anise or whatever as well. But another one, and this one surprised me because I think I'm not sure if I picked it, but it's funny I forget all that. But was the Allman Brothers? Fuck, was it? Yeah, that was Scott Coates, right? And what was the name of that album? It was live from
Fillmore East.
Yes, thanks. I really thought, and I mean, I think Dwayne Allman was an amazing musician. They're all amazing musicians. They're a bit of a jam band, like think Grateful Dead-ish, or I guess not really Grateful Dead. They're more psych, but I mean, definitely a jam kind of band. And this whole album was very like jam oriented, but it was just too all over the place for me. I just couldn't find a groove with it. I'm quite open about smoking cannabis and getting into that. And I find myself very good at being able to appreciate all styles of music. And I just struggle with that. Just something did not work for me. So that one was a bit of a stinker for me. And the one, there was a few others, honorable mention to even Mothers of Invention with Frank Zappa. I picked that, and that was kind of weird. Robert Johnson was literally one of my early picks. Is one of the, but it was just too old. It was like back in like 1910 or something, one of the first blues albums, and like it was influential, but that was hard to get through. But Thievery Corporation's another honorable mention. I just found that just didn't move me, but it's one of my picks, and it was early as well, but was the Beta Band, the 3 albums or whatever. And we did that. And, there's one killer track on it, and I just found the rest again, just too weird, and just too different and just not my style. And so I just couldn't get through that, but the Beta Band, and I picked it, and I thought, and that was from what's that movie?
The John Cusack movie.
Yeah, well, where
he worked at Championship.
I think I would have wrote all this down. But and there was
High Fidelity. You say?
High Fidelity, yes,
High
came to me.
Fidelity.
High Fidelity, the movie. In that movie, he's like, "I'm going to sell 3 records of the Beta Band right now," and he puts on the main track, something with the sun. Anyway, but I mean, and it's very cool. And I was like, I love that band. And that's literally, I was like, I'll do it. Like, I'll get into it. But you listen to that whole album, and it was just, I don't know, just didn't work for me. It just didn't work. Anyway, all right, I'm done there. Scott.
Well, I'm glad you didn't like Robert Johnson, because I 100% over these 10 years found out I just cannot listen to the blues. And I definitely can't listen to the oldest blues on the planet. And I think that's pretty much what that is. Sung into a tin can with all his soul. I appreciate him for it, but it's not going on any of my playlists anytime soon. 9 Inch Nails. Sorry, Alan. Pretty Hate Machine. I have a soft spot for industrial. I spent many a weekend at the warehouse, sweating out gallons of alcohol, dancing to that stuff. But a whole album of Trent Reznor, I can't. I just can't. That's not a sit there and drink kind of thing for me.
He was going through some shit, man. He was going through some shit.
I was listening to that thing. That was no way. And there weren't. I mean, you've listed, all of you, a number of the ones that I was kind of like on too. So I'm not gonna belabor those ones. The most criminal one for me was the 4 bands people love to hate, because 2 of the bands.
No, you're not.
Creed and
No.
Nickelback.
No,
Those are
Hey,
great bands.
In the warm up to the show, you were mentioning something about Nickelback, but I didn't think you were going to haul their name into
That's
this.
right.
No. Alan and I are
Of
Nickelback
course I am.
fans.
Were you
and
kidding me?
Like, come on.
I'm okay.
And
too.
I love Creed.
Yeah, Creed.
Nickelback and anything Nickelback adjacent.
You're lucky I'm not
cannot
controlling this
stand.
podcast. It's
Anything,
We'd mute.
anything that's with eyes wide open or kind of sounds. I just it's no. Anything that sounds like they're musically passing a kidney stone, I cannot listen to. So those are the big 3 for me. Yeah, and again, some of the stuff that you guys said I agreed with, so I won't go too deep into that. I'll pass it back to Scott.
Wow, that's a great list. And again, this is compounding into something about a surprise.
quite a few similarities there, too.
Yeah, a few maybe surprise listens and albums that we've discovered along the way that we probably wouldn't have if it was someone else's pick. I think surprising listens. I've got 3 albums down here, and I know they're really well known in Canada, but in June 2016, I think I might have picked Sam Roberts' We Were All Born in a Flame, but that album, I'd never heard the whole thing, and I really have gotten into them since. I've listened to every one of their albums now. They're one of my favorite bands.
Great artists. Great
Their
album.
last
Sam
few
Roberts.
albums.
Saw them live. They sounded amazing.
Gosh, I'd love to see them. But their last few albums have been incredible too. So that album, I love it, and it got me into them. Another one which I'd heard singles because I was DJing at the time it was big, but Lauryn Hill, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, like I can see why that's always high up on top 100 lists and whatnot. It is a very, very solid album. And although I've known the band a long time, I think I might have picked Tres Hombres by ZZ Top, but it got me listening to their early catalog. And I mean like probably first 8 albums, because I was introduced to them during the ZZ Top Eliminator, right? Sharp Dressed Man and that. And that actually, arguably, when you get to that album, beyond the singles, it's not that good. But Tres Hombres really made me realize, like, wow, ZZ Top were awesome. And their early stuff was awesome.
Billy Gibbons, amazing guitarist.
Yeah. And then a few albums that I discovered that I don't think I would have heard, like Alan mentioned M83, Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. Never heard of them before or since, but like I don't listen to it tons, but very, very interesting album. Like, wow. And another one, I knew of Muse. I'd heard a couple songs, but I'd never gone down an entire album. And Black Holes and Revelations, like that was solid. I'm glad we listened to that. And I know Dwight Yoakam singles, but the whole album, Guitars, Cadillacs, et cetera, like loved it. I've listened to that more. And one I picked that I've always liked, Frank Sinatra, but Sinatra at the Sands, that was part of our live albums pick. That one like surprised me with how much I love the live element of it. Like he's talking to people in the audience, like, "Hey, babe, blah blah blah," and he does stand up for about 5 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, there's easily 20 or 30 I could pick, but those were some standouts. How about over to you, Alan?
Yeah, man, very interesting. This was the hardest list for me to make, I think, just because like any pick that one of you guys put forward that I've never really had the opportunity to dive into, I always find something to pull out that's a surprise or a hidden gem or whatever. I'm gonna invoke Jeff Buckley here to try and redeem Scott Gregory just a little bit. I still play his song Grace quite a bit. Like, I just think it's a great song. He's a tremendous vocalist. You guys can't see Scott Coates' he's vomiting off screen. Just sorry to do that to you. But no, man, I for whatever reason, that tune really resonates with me. I find it haunting, and it's kind of fitting for a guy who died so young and so tragically. Another kind of shock and surprise for me was Scott Coates. I think this was your pick, Brian Eno. Apollo album.
God, I forgot
from
about
September of 2021.
It's amazing how many albums we forget
like,
that we even reviewed. And sometimes I'm like, I'll hear it. I'm like, oh, I don't know that. I'm like, oh, wait, we did a whole review on it. Like, oh my God.
Totally. And I guess like we've done, to your point, like 150 albums or whatever, more than that if you count all the compilations and stuff, the special episodes we've done, right? But this particular album, if you're unfamiliar with it, is, I guess, ambient music, you'd call it. Like Brian Eno kind of like invented the ambient music genre. And I did not expect to have enjoyed that one so much. I think maybe I was just in like a meditative headspace or whatever. Maybe I had imbibed on some mind-altering substances or whatever. But like that one has always stood out to me as being particularly memorable and enjoyable. I just remember like vibing out on the couch with some candles and just playing it on loop. And in my head, just going like, this is incredible. And to this day, I throw it on from time to time, a few of those tracks. So that was a surprise, and actually kind of helped influence my taste in music in other ways, which we can get to later. And I guess I'll just talk about one more here in the interest of brevity. Was it last year we reviewed One Hit Wonders?
Yeah.
And we listened to the New Radicals album. And like everyone's heard that one, like You Get What You Give song or whatever. But I came away feeling like I enjoyed the good majority of the tracks on that album. Like nothing I loved specifically, but I just like, there were so many albums that I found were like super catchy, and it shocked me that they didn't have, more than one hit single from that album, which I guess, spoiler alert, if you don't want to listen to our review, that was kind of by design from the main guy there, Greg, whatever his name was. But yeah, like just all of these really interesting discoveries that we make along the way here doing this with, when you've got such a diverse group of guys with such a diverse set of tastes and interests, like there's always something new to unravel. And with that, I will throw it over to you, Darren.
Yeah, good ones. And there's I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised many times. And actually, I wrote way too many. And actually, Alan, you picked it early on, was Dr. Dre's The Chronic. I've always said, I've always liked my kind of old school rap, West Coast rap and like that. And somehow that album kind of slipped through my fingers a bit. I remembered it, but not really. But I remember when we went back, I'm pretty sure I ranked that a 5. That just like caught me off guard. I think I like it when albums caught me off guard. And Dolly Parton's Jolene could be in that again too. But I mean, I remember that. Scott Coates, you already mentioned it, but we did this live album round and he picked Sinatra at the Sands. And I just thought that was such a fun album. I immediately like sought that out and bought it on vinyl. Like it's such a good, fun album. He's playing, I think he's in his early 50s or he just turned 50. He's in Vegas, kind of doing that thing. It was recorded over 2 nights. Quincy Jones, is really taking care of the band with Count Basie. And like, so the music is just dynamite. And I mean, a lot of people look back, oh, that's like my father's music or my, grandfather's music now, I guess. And, but like, you don't realize how good those musicians were. And even Frank Sinatra, he was a perfectionist. He was a really talented, singer and understood music and worked with Quincy Jones really well. Really good documentaries on Quincy Jones as well and all about that. But that was a good surprise for me. I also already mentioned, and I'm going to put it in the surprise category, but I remember the album, but I don't remember it blowing me away that much. But Van Halen, Alan's pick. We went back and listened to that, and I'm like, oh, I know I'll like it, but I'm like, wow, that is like a super fun, real banger, early kind of hard rock metal album. A couple that I picked that kind of really surprised me, maybe a bit, but was Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. I really liked that. I thought that was cool. Had a lot of angst. It was raw. Like, I actually, Queens of the Stone Age played Calgary, Alberta here several years ago now. Not the most recent tour, a few tours back. And Josh Homme was in on a local radio station, and they got him to do a little takeover. And he played a song off that album. And I was like, oh, if Josh Homme likes this album, like I knew some Iggy and the Stooges. Since then, you can't see, but I'm sitting in front of my albums. I have like, honestly, like 10 Stooges albums, all different ones, and loved it. So that surprised me and made me do that. And then one I picked not too long ago, and the hit just came out recently, was Tracy Chapman, her self-titled album. Like, wow, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if that was all fives for us, but it was close. It was a really good album, and an artist that kind of had two albums that went really big and then just kind of melted into obscurity, and then now kind of resurged with the country version of that song. But wow, like those are the ones that just really stood out for me. Like, what about you, Scott?
Yeah, so I think kind of in the same vibe, Erykah Baduism. I don't think I ever would have listened to an album of hers. I had some preconceptions just from, you see the, the pictures for her and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, she's like some artsy kind of singer and stuff like that. But it was just an incredibly well crafted album. She's got a beautiful voice. The, musicianship on the album was great. And so I was really surprised by that. It challenged some preconceptions that I had going into that about books and covers and whatnot. Fiona Apple was actually my pick. And, Darren gave a pretty solid history of her trip through the music industry. And I think that's what really surprised me, right? Is, I knew she was a great singer, but then just the story behind the artist as well, too. I found there was a new layer of informing the music that I wasn't always looking at before, that this album in particular really highlighted and allowed me to appreciate the album more. Nero, Welcome Reality surprised me, because when I was going through the list, I can't remember listening to this damn album. I double checked to make sure I was one of the reviewers.
That was Thievery Corporation for me. I'm like, we did Thievery Corporation? I'm like, I don't know.
I'm like, what? I'm like, you could literally, like a lineup of criminals. You could play me 5 songs and I wouldn't necessarily be able to tell you which one was Nero on that list. So, and I've actually resisted going back and listening to them because I'm trying to just do it naturally. No clue. But I gave it 2s, so I don't think I enjoyed it.
They just released their newest album after like a 9-year hiatus, if you're interested.
Oh, well, there we go. I'm sure it's just as forgettable. And the last one, that it wasn't even an album. We did a 4 artists you likely never have heard of, and one of them was The Kills. And I had never heard of the Kills, but then the first thing that popped up was Nail in My Coffin with a ping pong ball as one of the main instruments. And I was like, oh my God, I'm hooked. And I went to, Doing It to Death, Future Starts Slow,
Alice from Mosh,
all that stuff.
So
they're just so freaking amazing. And so I was completely, it wasn't even one of our main picks, right? And it just took me down a road with that.
She sings in the dead weather,
and I deeply appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Now I'm going to have to go
Dead
check
Weather.
out
Yeah, Jack White, another kind of side band. Amazing. Oh
Really?
my God. Okay.
Well, how have I not heard of these people then? Because I actually like Jack White.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my
And
God.
there's two of the Queens of the Stone Age in Dead Weather
Yeah.
too, I think.
And the Greenhorns. It's
Yeah,
like a
okay.
whole amalgamation
Log
of all
off
those
now.
friendly, cool alt rock bands. Dead Weather. Oh my God. I just blew your
Oh
mind.
my God. There's layers to this mind blowing now.
Wow.
And that was it. Yeah.
This is so much fun. I love hearing everyone's picks and rationales and impacts. So let's kind of wind into a potpourri category of sorts. I sort of have other elements that being part of this is exposed and maybe some more surprises. So I have a big list of things that this is exposed and kind of made me want to listen to more and consider, and some surprises. And a lot of them are just picks, but there's some bands that I never would have heard of and I've got to really listen to, like Deftones and Mariana Trench, which I know Alan is into. Harry Nilsson Schmilsson, like seemingly big at the time. I didn't get it, didn't hear from him, but it was funny. I was listening to a podcast about serial killers the other day and they mentioned that album as one that serial killers like. I really enjoyed the one 4 bands people love to hate, because although I was familiar with all those bands, Dave Matthews, Limp Bizkit, Creed, and Nickelback, I don't think I'd really listen to full albums. And I think the general consensus from all of us was that they're probably pretty darn good. Actually, I know there was some strongest hate probably for the Dave Matthews Band, which sort of surprised me. I was shocked by the...
No,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I was surprised by Desert Island albums, particularly Scott Gregory picked Roxette. Like, I was a DJ at a rollercade when that album came out, and I was just shocked that would be one of your 10. And then Mariana Trench for Alan, like, never heard of them, and you picked, I think, multiples. So I was like, oh wow. This one I didn't dig, but what a weird musical style, Sleaford Mods, and I'm glad I heard them, and I've noticed them now a lot more. I think I picked the Pixies Doolittle, but yeah, that was kind of neat. And Dap Dippin' with Sherry Jones and the Dap Kings. Another one was Wallflowers, Bringing Down the Horse. I mean, I knew the singles, but I think that's one of the best sounding albums, best produced ones we've done. The What Connects These albums, like Stone Roses, Black Sabbath, Simon and Garfunkel, Sonic Youth, Faith No More, Genesis. I'd heard some of those, but not really all of them. And in fact, the Black Sabbath one for me is like, I listen to that a lot. I think it's okay not to like some things. I mean, Radiohead is supposed to be awesome. Kid A, I don't get it. I don't get the hike. Bjork, again, she's bonkers. Kendrick Lamar, I know you love him, Darren, but like Mad City, I just don't get it. PJ Harvey, I don't get it. I also, hey, Alan, I'm with you. It's okay not to like Bob Dylan. Like, I wanted to, but gosh. And I was a bit surprised you guys didn't like one of my picks, DJ Shadow's album at all. And I realized that I'm pretty resistant for making time for bands that I don't know. And I've got to just start putting on albums I don't know and give them a solid chance. So that was a big list of things, but gosh, hearing everything you guys have talked about has made me want to go back and listen to some of these reviews. Thanks. It's been a ton of fun. How about you, Alan?
Yeah, man, that was a good list. I kind of approached this a little bit differently. I kind of went real introspective and just thought about how being a part of this group for these past 10 years has been like a really interesting way for me to benchmark my own personal growth and maturity as I, get older and wiser. Because I always tend to, like, in my own weird little brain, I always like benchmark eras of time with the music I'm listening to at the time and stuff. And so, like, we're listening to so much music that these past 10 years feel like a blur. You know what I mean? But the one thing I noticed is the older I get and the more self-aware I become, I start to question, why I feel the way I feel about certain things, why I like things, and maybe I should expand my mind into liking other things that are different and stuff like that. So, looking back on the early episodes that we did, I think it's pretty fair to say that I was kind of closed-minded as far as the things I was into. And I think I played it safe a lot with some of the picks I made. And then over the years, you can kind of see me starting to explore in other areas and really branching out. And also just even the way I rank albums kind of changed over time. Which has been really, really cool. Sorry, I'm just reviewing my notes here. Yeah, and especially in the last, 2 or 3 years in particular, I think my musical tastes have really, really opened wide. and looking back, I think I was probably too harsh of a critic on some of the past albums we reviewed, such as Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. I remember not liking that album.
So good.
And, as a dude who loves Marianas Trench, they're fucking rock opera. If ever there was rock opera, like, I really should respect and appreciate Meatloaf for what it is. So, I think I probably was a little harsh on that album. And same with Thievery Corporation. When we listened to Mirror Conspiracy, I was kind of just like, yeah, it's whatever. But lately I've come to really enjoy trip hop and that down tempo sort of experimental weird music. There's a time and a place for things that are loud and hard and fast and aggressive and sound like Creed, Scott. But, there's also a time and a place for the chill, mellow, pensive, soulful, thought-provoking side of music too. But fuck Kraftwerk. Pioneers or not, that Autobahn album sucks.
Autobahn.
Yeah.
Autobahn.
Autobahn.
Just didn't age well.
Yeah, I don't think it
Like the Autobahn.
I don't think it aged well at all. That's a very charitable assessment. And lastly, I should say too, as I was approaching, some of these lists, like the top 3 albums we reviewed or whatever, I was deliberately trying to avoid anything that I picked directly myself, with the exception of the Velvet Underground, which genuinely surprised me how much I enjoyed that. Because like you, Darren, I also, gave the Dr. Dre album like probably solid 5s the whole way through. But I feel like I was probably biased in picking that one. So, and that just kind of goes to show, what was that, like 2015? That was a long time ago, right? That we picked that. Like, my tastes have changed and I've grown as a person, and I've begun to explore more and more genres, and I have you guys to thank.
Yeah, Alan, you're
a large
youngest
part of that.
Remember 10 years ago, what, you're like 7 or something? Like, what were you?
I was 30 10 years ago.
He wasn't allowed to listen to some of the albums.
I feel so old because Alan always seems so young to me, and and now, like, no, you can't be 40. There's no way.
Yeah, sad but true. So anyway, these past 10 years have been wicked, and I really appreciate each and every one of you and your unique perspectives and insights and musical tastes, because I think as we go through this together, we kind of shape each other's experiences and shape each other's tastes. And one day I'm gonna get Scott Gregory to listen to a whole fucking Nickelback album and like it. It's my goal.
Keep dreaming. Anyway, everyone's got to live for something, and you're going to live a long, long life.
Here's hoping. All right, Darren, over to you.
This is so hard. I mean, there's so much to look back on. I guess I'll start with some of the albums and stuff that, again, I'll maybe surprised, but just like change the way you kind of think about things. There's so many, and there was some great picks too. Like we didn't put like Purple Rain. I remember Scott Gregory, you picked that, like, so good. Led Zeppelin 2. That is one. And when I was a kid, I remember I had my best buddy Colin Chevery, his older brother Chevy. They called him Stephen Chevery. He was like our muse. He had all these albums, but he was like 4 or 5 years older than us. And I remember he had Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and all that. And I will fully admit I didn't get it at that time. I would have been, 13 to 16 kind of in that time. We're talking the 80s for me. And but going back now and listening, and I've gotten into record collecting and going back and I've you go backwards maybe sometimes more than forwards and listening to new music because it's easier. And one thing I learned is that that is just as amazing as the newer stuff. Like, it's just as fun for me to go backwards into music that's already happened and these influences, and you see where it all came from. And that's the whole purpose of the show. And that's how we started, was like, let's go back. Like, there's all this, music we like now, but like, where did it come from? And you realize when you go back and like, like the Autobahn, like, didn't really fly, but you realize like that was the beginning of electronic music, which later on you would be like, some of these great artists that we do like now will be like, well, if they hadn't paved the way. And it's like one of those things. It's like, just because you're first in the game doesn't mean you'll be the one that will nail it. So Kraftwerk was really first in electronic music, but maybe now it doesn't stand the test of time because it was so crude, but they just kind of paved a way. So I like that aspect of it, and even how it opened up for me. When we picked the Clash, same thing. I like punk music now, but I got into it late. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how, you're in your late 30s, 40s getting into punk music. That's supposed to be like a teenage angry thing. And I just did it backwards. Like, but that was a cool discovery for me, realizing that I actually really do like punk music. I love live shows. I go to a lot of live shows. Well, not as much now because I'm trying to open a distillery and it takes way too much time. Cutting into my band time. Thanks a lot, New Craft Spirits. But, I love that. And then there's some other great albums, like even Pink Floyd. And I mean, David Gilmour, I may be politically, maybe I don't love that guy, but I mean, that music, and Wish You Were Here. We picked that. I thought that was pretty cool. That kind of changed the way I thought about a few things, but, yeah. And Alan, you mentioned like you're growing, but for me, I was also like, I would pick some albums that I kind of knew and maybe I knew I'd like, but I thought you guys would be cool. But for example, like I know, and Scott Coates too is a big fan of the Foo Fighters, and we've been doing this 10 years, and we just did a special episode where it's like that band influenced that band. And I picked Bad Brains influencing the Foo Fighters. And that's the first time they've been mentioned in this podcast. I'm like, how have Scott Coates and I, who are two huge Foo Fighters fans, been in this 10 years, but actually never picked that? But it's cool. Like, so you're kind of like, well, I don't want to be obvious or too much, but it's just what it is. And I mean, Alan Cross, who we interviewed, a great rock podcaster, journalist, historian, Canadian, amazing dude. We got to interview him, but he ended, and we did an episode about, what makes a great album, and go back and listen to that. It was so good. But I mean, and he ends it by saying, hey, you like what you love, respect all music, like what you love, and just listen to what you love. And, but like, you don't have to be an asshole to other music to just listen to what you like to. And sometimes things just don't jive. Like the Allman Brothers should have jived with me, or other albums like that I think would work, didn't. So it's just like, don't worry about that. Just like what you love. And you can't even explain why you don't like it. Like, Scott Gregory will never understand why he doesn't like Nickelback, but like,
he just has to understand that he's wrong.
You want to know why? It's because Leader of Men is such a great song, especially the acoustic version, that it hurts so much that all of their other songs are horrible in comparison. They've touched the mountaintop, and then they never made it back.
All right, I've rambled long enough, Scott. Okay, you do you, and yeah, you do you. And then I've got some cool facts about our podcast in 10 years. So yeah, Scott, what's yours take on all this?
Yeah, I took a bit of an introspective look as well too, like Alan did, and I'm really the first thing out is I'm just surprised how reluctant I used to be to say I didn't like an album, right? Like, but then you all shit on Meatloaf, and I got over that.
Well, hey, you know what? We'll like Meatloaf if you like Nickelback. Can we make a deal?
All right. We'll do a hostage exchange of some sort, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, you know what? It's fine. Fucking hate Nickelback. I can't do it.
Baby, let me sleep on it. All right. Well, like you said, and it's fun to crap on things a little bit as long as it's good-hearted. But deep in my heart of hearts, I agree with you that let people enjoy their music, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. And you can enjoy what you like without having to try and diminish someone else's enjoyment of what they like. And Yeah, I think part of this, it did really help me figure out what I like and what I don't like musically, having to just really dig in, put my nose into some of these albums, and then just actually, when you said, I don't think he knows why he doesn't like Nickelback. Well, now I know why I don't like a whole lot of artists, right? Because I had to actually figure out what these feelings I was having during listening to these albums and quantify it and put a score to it and things like that. And I appreciated that because it gave a framework for me to really start analyzing this music and by extension, myself and my tastes. It's not just blues, which is an entire category, but I had to look at like Nine Inch Nails and some elements of industrial, which overall I have an appreciation for. But just like screamo stuff, there's adjacent music types or things that they do within those genres that I can be like, okay, well, that's end of that spectrum isn't for me. And I found out how much I just straight up love British music, like across genres, across generations. I don't know why, but I'm sure if you did an aggregate of all the scores of all the albums, the British would be winning in this case. So Americans, sorry. But I think two songs at the very least on albums that really hit me. I really liked Thorn in My Pride by the Black Crowes. I was surprised just how it just like hit all the right notes for me, no pun intended. And I had heard the song before, but I don't think I ever really listened to the song. And it was when I actually sat down, listened to the whole album, then listened to that song in particular that really hit me. And then Wish You Were Here. Again, the song, not the album. The album is great, but I listened to Wish You Were Here. It's timeless. Like I literally cried. And then I read up on the song and I cried even harder listening to this thing. Like I tear up listening to that song, and it's amazing just, how when you're opening yourself up and you're really listening and you're really letting it all the way in through all your layers to give it a true appreciation, how even more powerful music can be when it's not just a background filler for you, but something that you're actually really listening to and analyzing and letting yourself resonate with. So yeah, I think those are the big things for me is that it evolved my taste, but I think it also evolves me a little bit as a person as well.
With the overall messages, we're surprised by our own picks, by other people's picks. We didn't like stuff that we thought we would like, and we've come to like a lot of stuff we didn't think we'd like so much. So yeah, it's been an incredible 10 years. As Darren mentioned, it was great to finally meet when I was in town. I think it was a little slow that day. I was a little rusty from the night before, but it was great to meet you all. And
I always force Scott.
I don't know how long
much when he comes to town.
Yeah, I don't know how long we'll continue with
Friends are
like
for
this, but I always enjoy having one or more albums to listen to every month. So thanks a ton for doing this, guys. Thanks to everyone who's listening. And are we going to go back to just a regular round of picks?
Well, hang on. Before we go there, I actually have a few facts. I just want to point out, hey, first of all, we're 4 friends. We've been doing this for 10 years, but this is for fun. There's no money in this. There's no advertising. So if you're listening to this and you've got this far, you're probably one of the rarest. But no, we really appreciate it. We do it for ourselves. We do this and we really love it. We've been doing it for 10 years. We've gotten better over years, but we have basically over 50 hours of recorded podcasts. I mean, they're usually about 30 minutes each. There's some introduction things, but that's amazing. We're basically over 55,000 plays. So, I mean, that's not a big number in the modern era, but that's 55,000 listeners that we've got. And that's very cool. So, I mean, I'm very proud of that and proud of our little club. And again, we do it for ourselves. We try our best. We're not pros. We don't have the big budgets, but it's amazing. So I have a few other stats that we can pull from kind of our, we use SoundCloud as our podcast provider, but I do have some, and it's and some of this is weird, but I have our top 3 basically most popular episodes, but it was our very top one. It was Celine Dion's "Falling Into You" by Scott Gregory. By far. I mean, people fucking love Celine Dion, and then she's Canadian too. So
Je t'adore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why wouldn't you? Actually, her documentary is pretty interesting too, what she's gone through in the last few years, and being Canadian. So cool that a Canadian led that list. Number 2. Sinatra at the Sands, Scott Coates. It came up a few times, but that is the second most listened to episode of all time. Number 3, and I think this is another Scott Gregory pick, I believe, but I could be wrong. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, is up there. Yeah, was that? Yeah, that was amazing. Okay, now the bottom 3, and the bottom 3 actually surprised me. And I mean, we have no control over that. It's just what you listen to. Again, there's no search engine optimizations as who finds this and everything like that. But basically, okay, so the third, I'll start from like Florence and the Machine Lungs is the third least listened to episode, and I didn't mind. I like
Holy cow,
amazing. And I mean, again, we can't control it, one I believe I picked at the second lowest listens is Alice Cooper's "Love It to Death." It was an early Alice Cooper album. It's a little meaty and tough, but he's an interesting dude. But that was it. And again, and number 1, and I was blown away by this one. And by the way, I didn't actually include any albums or reviews we've done kind of in the last year because it's not fair. Somewhere back 10 years, I thought, kind of eliminate those. But Alice in Chains' "Dirt" is the least listened to review we've ever had. And I'm like, wow, that's like grunge. And who knows why? It doesn't make any sense. But, interesting. Okay, so our top cities, like just a couple more things, and then we're almost done. Our top cities for listens is, California is number 1 by far, but Boardman, California. I'm not even sure where that is exactly, but that is our number 1 city. Number 2, Dublin, Ireland. Yeah, so apparently, the Irish like us. Maybe I'm from Newfoundland and PEI. Scott lived in PEI. It's very Irish influenced over there. So, maybe they just like the Canadian vibe there. And number 3, I mean, it's funny that we finished this low, but it's Calgary. Calgary, Alberta, our hometown for, all of us, even though Scott Coates lives in Thailand. But a weird little anomaly. Number 5, Port-au-Prince. And number 6, Jakarta.
Oh, really?
Very interesting. Yeah.
Jakarta.
Are they French speaking? Maybe those are the Celine people.
They must love Celine. They probably, Port-au-Prince would definitely be French. Totally. Yeah, it was
Sounds
totally
French.
And the top countries, no surprise. Number 1, the USA, by far about actually they're almost 10-1 over the next country. The UK is second. It's our Irish friends and others. And third, again, we finished third twice, but Canada, where we're from. But yeah, so interesting. And
wow.
Another interesting one, just a few spots down, Indonesia. So a little closer to Scott, but yeah. So you got to talk to your Thai people over there and try and maybe get them to take over Indonesia, Scott. But yeah, so a little bit interesting factoids. And guys, so fun. Been 10 years. I don't think many people can say that. There's a lot of popular podcasts now that just are big produced and they started a few years ago, but hey, we're a group of friends. We've stayed together for 10 years and it's been a cool ride, and thanks a lot. But Scott, to you.
Yeah. I always tell people
here,
this is like book club for dudes who don't read good. Because really that's what it is, right? It's exactly like book club. Except we get
I'm the
stoned
goodest reader ever, dude.
Good word's good.
The goodest reader. Good word's good.
Word's good.
Me
Also,
like music.
Full disclosure, Alan picked.
Oh,
Alanis,
sorry. Yeah,
so
I
credit where
did.
credit's
Yeah,
due.
nice
sorry,
one.
I forgot. Yeah, see, you forget the details.
Yeah, but I did also pick Dirt.
Oh,
so I don't know.
I mean,
They kind of balance out.
and that does not reflect its scores. That's not scores. That's just listens, podcast listens, which we have no control.
The
Yeah, the people
speaking.
for some reason don't like.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Scott, you want to wrap it up?
Super interesting. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for doing this. Wow, this is our longest episode too, but this was arguably my favorite episode of all time. I think we're coming in November here with maybe a regular round of picks. Darren, you're going to kick it off. So watch the website for what our pick for November 2024 is. Email us if you're listening to this, or send us something on X, etc. Let us know some of your favorites. Until next month, thanks a ton for listening to 10 years, and here's to the years ahead.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Sonic Collective, where we've explored the music, the history, and the impact of some of the greatest albums of all time. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained new insights and appreciation for the music you and we love. Join us next month for another exciting album, and until then, keep listening to great music.